Welcome to A Guide to Every Deck in EDH. Today we're looking at Kona Rescue Beastie from Duskmourn. So Kona Rescue Beastie is a 4-mana 4/3 legendary beast survivor, and it says survival. At the beginning of your second main phase, if Kona is tapped, you may put a permanent card from your hand onto the battlefield. So obviously, we're going to want to do one of two things with this. One, we want cards that allow us to tap Kona immediately so that we can, after casting it, immediately put something into play. And then two, we're going to want big, expensive, powerful permanents that we can cheat in with Kona. So first things first, let's just talk about all of the cards that we're going to use to tap Kona immediately. So Earthcraft is going to be one of these. Tap an untapped creature to untap a basic land. This will be used in combos, specifically in this case with Squirrel Nest, which will allow us to create infinite 1/1s. Lightning Greaves, while doubling up as protection, also just gives Kona haste, and so it's very possible that we can just attack immediately and use that as the way of tapping Kona. That's also similar to Concordant Crossroads, which gives everything haste. And Concordant will also be useful for winning the game off of playing infinite creatures. So if we have Earthcraft Squirrel Nest and we create infinite 1/1s, if we've got Concordant, we can then attack with those infinite 1/1s. Holdout Settlement is a land that we can use to tap Kona. There are other lands besides Holdout Settlement that basically do the same thing, but I don't feel like it's important to play more than one of these. Relic of Legends, another way to tap an untapped legend to generate a mana. Springleaf Drum similarly does the same thing. And then in this section, we've got all of the other tappers. So anything that is a vehicle, a creature with saddle, any of these effects are going to be ways of tapping Kona. So the best ones, as far as I can tell, are things like Clown Car. Now, the reason it's Clown Car is because you can play Clown Car for 0. So if you are ever in a position where you need to cast Kona and you don't already have a tapping effect and you just so happen to draw Clown Car that turn, you can use this. Or if you just needed to spend your previous turns casting other things, we also have Unlicensed Hearse, Cultivator's Caravan, and Reckoner Bankbuster. There was plenty more vehicles we could have played. I think the next best one after any of these would have been Smuggler's Copter, but I felt like this was enough. And with 8 tapping effects, that probably should be enough for Kona, but you could obviously include more if it turns out that this is not enough for Kona. Now, as for the rest of this, we've got some big things to cheat in, with Craterhoof obviously being the go-to card, and a card that's going to allow us to win the game in a lot of cases. We also have Disciple of Frailes, which we can use to sacrifice things. Now, we probably don't want to sacrifice Kona, but if we do have to do that, it's not so bad that we can draw 4 cards off of it. And because we're playing, again, a lot of big creatures that we're going to be cheating in with Kona, a lot of these draw cards equal to the power of the greatest power creature in play cards are going to be used to draw a bunch of cards. So, Garruk Primal Hunter, Last March of the Ents, which doubles up as another way to cheat a bunch of things in, aside from just Kona. Life's Legacy, Return to the Wild Speaker, which we can also use to overrun opponents if we've got a bunch of creatures, Rishkar's Expertise, and then we've got Sylvan Library, Ring, Toski, and Skull Clamp for our other draw spells. Our lands are pretty straightforward, with the notable cards, of course, being things like Gaia's Cradle, pretty stock and green decks for the most part, Nykthos, similarly kind of doing the same sort of Cradle effect. Command Beacon, since if Kona does wind up getting countered or killed, we probably don't want to have to pay too much more for Kona. And then you may notice we have 19 basic forests. This is going to be relevant later. Some protection spells. Obviously, we don't want Kona to get countered or killed, so as many anti-counter, anti-kill spells as possible. Pretty straightforward. You've probably seen all of these cards before. Tons of ramp. Again, we want Kona to get out as fast as possible so we can cheat stuff in. Also worth pointing out, as usual, that we can use Arbor Elf in combination with Yavimaya and Gaia's Cradle. So Yavimaya turns all of our lands into forests, and then we can use Cradle or sometimes Nykthos and have Arbor Elf untap those to generate tons more. Up here in removal, we have some cards that are going to be relatively common in decks like Nature's Claim, Force of Vigor, and Beast Within. But then on the high end, we've got Apex Altasaur, which can basically fight as many things as possible, or Terastodon, which blows up to 3 non-creature permanents. And then some other big payoffs here are Ugin, which is a little awkward because we do have a lot of cards that Ugin exiles, but sometimes it's worth it, and sometimes it's worth it just to get the lightning bolting effect of Ugin down. Portal to Phyrexia, another big one, Bane of Progress, Void Winnower, Nullstone Gargoyle, which says whenever the first non-creature spell each turn is played, counter it. And then Winter Moon, which is the reason that we're running so many basic forests. Then over here, we've got a bunch of tutors. In particular, things like Crop Rotation to grab Gaia's Cradle are good, and Natural Order, which we can use to cheat out Craterhoof. Now, you might want to play with the numbers in this deck. It's possible that the Kona strategy itself may not have enough support, so this version of the deck here in this list, I don't have too many big things to cheat out, nor do I have that many tappers, and it's possible you want more tappers and more big things to cheat, but I felt like this was a good enough mix. If this winds up not being a good enough mix, then I would default to cutting ramp spells. We are playing a lot of them at 28, and it's very possible we could shave this down to something like 20 or so and play more payoffs. But I felt like these were the best payoffs possible, and surprisingly, there aren't that many good, like, big creatures or other permanents to cheat in that will help us win the game or just get way ahead on resources. So these are the ones that I felt were the best. But with that said, that is going to be Kona Rescue Beastie for EDH.